What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 61 of Week in Review. My name is Sean, and on this week's show, we're talking about The Occupation, Disney's extreme skateboarding adventure, all the way from 2003, Captain Marvel, and we'll look forward to this week's new releases. We'll start with my finalized thoughts on The Occupation. I talked a little bit about this game last week and how I played for 2.5 hours, but I ended up only playing one section of the game because I broke the game. And somehow I managed to break the game again. If you watch part 3 of the stream, you can catch that. It's up right now. Basically, what happened was I had gotten caught at this point twice and set an alarm off. No, I'm sorry. I have my events backwards. I had gone into another area. He caught me, but didn't take me to the head security guy. And then I set off an alarm in another room, and he suspected it was me. And so what happened was I ended up walking into an elevator. I pushed the button to have the elevator take me into the second part. His character came around the corner and started interacting with me. Basically what happens is when he gets close, it closed in a little bit on the widescreen aspect of it, and then it forces your character to look a certain way. And as the elevator doors closed, he didn't finish his sentence, and so the game didn't understand that it needed to move on and regain or give me back control of the character. And I ended up having to stand there for 10 straight minutes. Because of this issue or error or glitch or whatever you want to call it, I apparently just break games on my streams. I missed out on a meeting that was very important and felt like it was going to be very important to the plot. Last week when I talked about this game, I talked about how I was already kind of struggling with the plot of this game, and missing that meeting made me feel like I was even more lost. Thankfully, though, the game does, at the end of it, wrap it up pretty nicely and boil it down to it's this reason and this reason, now pick. And it literally gives you two decisions you can pick from. And because I actually really struggled through the last couple of sections of the game, just as far as making progress, because I had been caught twice, I didn't really push too far past the boundaries, and I failed to really do anything of any significant importance, so I wasn't able to select one of the options. It was just crossed out. So I selected the one option I had, and it ended the game 2 or 3 times. That was one of the weird things about it, is every time I thought the game was okay, we're done now, it's no, here's another section. Okay, now we're done. No, there's one more section. It's this felt like this was a game that ended 4 separate times. I was, however, able to prove my 3 strikes and you're out theory. Last week when I talked about the game, I had gotten caught once in the first area, and I got caught very early in the second area in my round 2, technically part 3. But my continuation after the Carla Berman interview, I got caught really early, and that was kind of a bummer. So I was a little more hesitant. But what ended up happening is I got caught pretty late in the game, and they sent me back home. What piques my curiosity is what happens if I get caught super early. If we're in the Carla Berman area and I got caught 3 times, where does the story go from there? The other question would be is what if I played it better and was able to get more evidence or more information, and how does that other ending look? Thankfully, this game is pretty short. I spent probably 8 hours or so with it. That is with an extra hour of replay of a section. So you're probably looking at 6 to 7 hours, somewhere in there, depending on... Well, actually, not really. I was going to say depending on how fast you play, but then this game is a fixed time game. But maybe some of the sequences go quicker. There was one point where I definitely got caught, where I just completely brain farted and really struggled to understand what the game wanted me to do, even though the answer was right in front of me. The portion of the game that I was the most successful with in this back 2/3 or probably close to 3/4 with how many times this game ends was the most linear section of it, but it was also the most tense section of the game, where you're really starting to run low on time, all the power's out, and so it's dark and eerie and oh god, I just want to be done. And it kind of really builds towards an interesting finish. Unfortunately, I didn't do super well and didn't get probably the best ending. Overall, I really enjoyed the game. It's something different than what I usually play, is what I mentioned last week. I thought the story was interesting. I'm glad it wrapped up pretty easily, because I really felt like I was struggling. But I think I have a better grasp of what it is now, and I'm really looking forward to going back and replaying it, and I think that speaks to how much I enjoyed this game, that I do want to go try different things and see how that works out for me. Getting caught early, getting caught fewer times or much later in the game, see if I can maybe improve, get more information, and be able to have a different outcome. So The Occupation so far is my favorite game I've played this year. Our second game this week is Disney's Extreme Skateboarding Adventure, and it's just basically Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 with a Disney skin on it, and that's like literally what it is. It's a game based in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 engine. If you are new to the Pro Skater series, you are roughly 16 years too late. But it's a good series of games, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 was the first game that gave you more of an open world aspect. The first 3 games were you go into a level, you have 2 minutes to get as many goals as you can complete. I think each had 10 goals maybe. The first one might be different because it's a much older game. I think that one only had 5. I should know that because I played a ton of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1. I feel, is it 5? Skate, high score, hidden tape, random objective, pro score? That sounds right. Anyway, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 opened the game up. It gave you unlimited time in the areas you were in, and you would go talk to people, get missions, and they would say, hey, you need to get combo, or you need to get skate, or you need to get 30,000 points, or 45,000, whatever the number is. You need to do X, Y, and Z. This is a game that takes that and puts a Disney skin on it, quite literally, because a lot of the sound effects are the same. So if you fall down as Buzz Lightyear, it sounds like a 200-pound man hitting the ground, and it's super weird. It also has some of the weirdness of some of the goals. Like, there's one point in one of the Toy Story levels where you have to, like, skate over a flusher to get one of the characters to get off of the toilet. And that was, like, super bizarre. And I was like, I like it, I'm having fun with it, but it's like, that's weird for like a kid's game. Speaking of this game being designed for kids, it has a very simple control scheme, and it's very forgiving on how it executes grinds and lip tricks and stuff like that. If you're an old man like me, I'm 29, you're going to want to flip to the Pro controls, which actually I started to do a lot better with because that's how my brain is wired to play Tony Hawk games. A lot of times I was trying to start a certain trick, but because of the way the other control set is set, it'll automatically grind on a lip or land on a lip, and I was like, man, I'm having a lot of trouble trying to do what I feel like I should be able to do. And then I flipped to the Pro controls, and I was like, oh yeah, this is for old people like me. I thought the levels of this game were really interesting. I spent most of my time playing the Toy Story stuff. You have the option of Toy Story, The Lion King, or Tarzan. I started with Tarzan because they have an elephant, and that was the whole gimmick of the stream, was to play as an elephant and prove that elephants can do anything. They can dunk, they can skateboard, some other third thing. I have to find another game that has an elephant in it, but that's a problem for another day. I moved back over to Toy Story because that's my preferred area of Disney, I guess. That's a weird way to put it, but that's what it is. And I really enjoyed the first 2 levels. Each world has 3 levels. The Toy Story worlds are Andy's Room and Pizza Planet, and then Zurg's Planet. And I really liked Andy's Room and Pizza Planet. They were fun and creative, and they were small enough to where I felt like I was able to find things very easily. Zurg's world was way too open, and the goals were too spread out, and I had trouble finding where I needed to go for that stuff. Like, there are points of the stream where I'm just circling around areas, and I'm like, I would really just like to find a goal at any point now. That would be super great. On the surface of all the levels, they have a good amount of goals. The problem is that not all of them are actually like skateboarding related. A lot of them are related to collectibles. Each of the characters you play as has a specific type of collectible. For example, Buzz Lightyear has batteries, Woody has sheriff stars, Jesse has cowgirl boots, and Zurg has his little gun that he has on his hand. I don't know what it's called. I feel like I should know that, but I don't. I guess I'm just not that deep into the lore of Toy Story. The lore story? Toy lore? I don't know. Too many of the goals actually are related to the collectibles, and that really sucks because it means that you spend a lot of time just kind of moving around an empty world with not really much of a task in hand. Like, you're looking for collectibles and they're, easy enough to find, but it still is one of those things where it's like, maybe instead of all these collectibles, you should put 5 more goals in each of them, like a 6 score that's really like a lot of points, or just, I don't know, just come up with like creative, silly things. They don't have to be the most exciting or the best parts of the game, but I think that's a better way to do it than have you skating around for collectibles. But, I did it anyway. The collectibles, if you unlock them all, unlock special tricks for the characters, and that's about all they do. I'm sure it's pretty weird as a random viewer of this show or a regular viewer to hear about a game from 16 years ago, but I thought it was a silly fun time, and I wasn't expecting to like it quite as much as I did. It reminded me of why I enjoyed the Tony Hawk games so much, the Pro Skater series specifically. I like Underground too, but that any other games other than those I don't have a ton of familiarity with. They're goofy, arcadey fun. I like the Disney skin on top of it. I like the Toy Story aspects of it. The Lion King stuff I didn't touch. And I only played in Tarzan to play as an elephant. So take that for what you will. I thought the levels were interesting and creative, even if they were a little bit empty. And I don't really know what all I expected for $13, but I feel like I got my money's worth out of it. So there's that. Disney Extreme Skate Adventure is available at a used game store that specializes specifically in retro games prior to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 near you. And finally on the show we have Captain Marvel, the first Marvel Studios movie I have actually talked about on this show. So your first question is probably, Sean, why is this the one that you're jumping into? You missed Black Panther, you missed Avengers, you missed Ant-Man. I don't really know if not being interested counts as missing, but we'll work with it. Well, the easy answer is Brie Larson. I like her as an actor and I like her work. I also like the directors, Anna Boden and Ryan Fleck. They made one of my favorite movies of all time in Half Nelson. They also made It's Kind of a Funny Story, which is a movie that I enjoy as well. I thought that was enough to push me in a direction to go see this. I kind of knew what I was getting into. I think the Marvel movies are their own, level of kind of generic and simple, and this movie comes with a lot of the same positives and negatives that some of the other Marvel movies I've seen come with. I think this movie gets off to a bit of a rough start, and it doesn't really pick up its pace until it gets to Earth. The opening sequence is kind of weird, and it sets the stage in some ways, but those are the parts that didn't really seem to pay off all that well later in the movie. I don't know. There's a sequence very early that happens in this movie that I actually hated, and I just wanted it to end. It has to do with messing with someone's mind, and I was just so frustrated. I don't know who's doing it. I don't know what they're trying to get. It's filmed really annoyingly. I don't understand what's going on, and please just be done. Be done. Thankfully, the movie does pick up once she lands on Earth. That is not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. She crashes into a Blockbuster Video. One of the main reasons this movie picks up is it pairs her with Nick Fury. Samuel L. Jackson is great as Nick Fury. That's super obvious. And it finally gives Brie Larson, who I thought kind of struggled a little bit. There are a couple of comedic lines that happen early in the movie that it just seemed like weren't quite there. But once she has Samuel L. Jackson to play off of, her character takes a little bit more shape and some of the humor lands a little bit more frequently. The movie only gets better when they introduce Carol's best friend and her daughter, who is lovingly referred to as Lieutenant Trouble. And by the way, I would 100% go see a Lieutenant Trouble solo movie. She was fantastic. She is, pardon the spoilers, she is the hidden gem of this movie. She is so well casted and charming and interesting, and the way that this whole sequence, basically when they show up to her best friend's house and when they leave, that's the best section of the movie. It has the best character moments. It's the most emotional section of the movie. It has the most humor. It has the best chemistry between the cast. But it also works from a plot standpoint where a lot of things shift and change and character dynamics are moved around. One of the characters even gets the opportunity to be shown in a completely different light, and they really take advantage of it by another great piece of casting. He is terrific in this role, and the way that the banter goes back and forth is absolutely fantastic. On the more negative side of things, I found myself actually quite bored during the final climactic battle sequence. This is a problem I have had with almost every Marvel movie I have seen. I have had a problem with this since day one with Iron Man. Iron Man is 3/4 of a fantastic movie and 1/4 of a very boring and dull action sequence, and this is a thing that continues to repeat. It was the same problem I had with Thor Ragnarok. It was the same problem I had with Spider-Man Homecoming, and it kind of bites Captain Marvel here. I was done with this movie probably about 10 minutes before this movie was done with itself. And it was one of those things where I was sitting there and I was like, I just want this to be done. I like the character dynamics. I want to go back to the characters. And that's the positive aspect of the Marvel movies is they take a character, Captain Marvel, who I don't really know that much about. They take her best friend, they take the Kree, and they take all these other characters and they make you care about them. For the most part, Jude Law's character is a little dull, but that's fine. They make you care about who you need to care about, and they do such a great job with that as soon as they get away from it, it just feels formulaic and generic in its own special way, which is an odd way of saying it. Like, there are a lot of movies that come out where you're like, this is like formulaic sports movie. That's a thing that probably works a little bit better for me, but probably doesn't work for some other people. Marvel has their formula down, and it's just one of those things that doesn't work for me. I like what they're going for. I like what they're doing, but it just doesn't wow me all that much. This movie feels like, in a weird way, like hard to recommend or not recommend. I don't think it does anything remarkably special that we haven't seen before in a Marvel movie, and I also feel like if you're in on the Marvel movies, you're in on the Marvel movies. If you're not in on the Marvel movies, you're not. I don't think there's a whole lot at this point that Marvel's going to do to push you one way or the other. Maybe that changes once the Fox merger goes through and they're able to bring in the Fantastic Four and the X-Men. But I feel like even with those characters, they've had enough exposure to where you go, I like or don't like these characters. So I don't know. I thought it was good. I think for the most part the characters are interesting and the character dynamics are great. I think it just struggles with some of the action stuff, and it didn't leave me wowed. Finally, on this week's show, we'll take a look at this week's new releases. Us is in theaters. There weren't any games, and on Blu-ray, the only thing that matters this week. Us is like a pretty close second, but Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is out on Blu-ray. This movie is amazing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It's like, go find a Redbox or go to a Target or anywhere that Blu-rays or DVDs, you can get your hands on them and watch this movie. It is absolutely terrific and well worth the price. As for the videos uploaded on the channel this week, Wednesday is going to be Lego Movie 2 Part 4, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday will be the previous day's streams. This week's streams, Wednesday is going to be Wacky Wednesday with Rush 2 on the Nintendo 64. I didn't really know what to play this week, and then all of a sudden it popped into my head this morning, and I was like, I should listen to the Rush 2 soundtrack. And then I listened to the Rush 2 soundtrack, and I was like, I think I have a copy of this in the garage. I'm going to go dig it out, and I'm going to play it on Wednesday. Why not play it on Thursday, Sean? Well, I'm going to a preview screening of Us, or what is now the midnight release time slot. I'm going to Us at 7 o'clock on Thursday, and I forgot that I was going to stream that night, and then, anyway, it got moved to Wednesday, so Wacky Wednesday, no stream Thursday. I don't exactly know what's going to be streamed on Friday. We'll figure it out as it goes. Maybe another brilliant idea will pop into my head, and it'll be another random old game that magically appears. Saturday is the Sweet 16 of March Mascot Madness. It's going to be the full round. All 8 games are going to happen. And then Sunday, it's everything. It's the Elite 8, it's the Final 4, it's the third place game, and it's the championship. So if you're sick and tired of hearing me talk about mascots playing basketball, this is it. This is the last time you have to hear about it. But if you're curious, if you're like, man, I should watch one of these streams, come by. Saturday's going to be a little bit late because I have preview tickets to Shazam, and I again forgot that I was supposed to do something because I planned 2 things separately, which makes sense on their own, but together don't work. So the stream's going to be a little bit later on Saturday, probably around 6 or so. And then Sunday's stream will be at 4 like normal. Obviously, all the streams will be up the next day right here on YouTube, so you can catch them if you miss them. Thank you so much for watching this week's episode of Week in Review. If you like the content, scroll on down and hit that subscribe button. If you want to scroll on down a little bit more and leave a comment, you can do that. You can tell me, have you played Disney's Extreme Skateboarding Adventure? What did you think of it? And why is Toy Story so great? You can also tell me if you played The Occupation or if you're interested in The Occupation. And let me know what you thought of Captain Marvel. Be sure to check out the streams Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then get ready for a new episode of Week in Review every Tuesday right here on YouTube. We'll see you next week.